What's going on, everybody? Welcome to The Dime. Today, we are previewing the Philadelphia 76ers with the one, the only host of the Philadelphia Sports Table and the Northampton County Commissioner. Everybody, please give it up for Jeff Warren.
Yes. Thanks, guys. Thanks.
Yes.
Josh, Kwab, great seeing you. Thanks so much for having me on. I am so excited. I'm really excited about the NBA season in general.
Okay.
Yeah, we can put the Sixers over here to the side for the moment, but just in terms of the season, it really is going to be fun to watch a lot of these storylines manifest itself, throughout the rest of 2024 and into 2025. So thanks for having me on to talk about the Sixers and what the season's going to look like.
Yeah, man, I'm really excited as well. I think there's a little rivalry brewing between the Knicks and the Sixers. And then you had the Phillies and the Mets, and that didn't end, in the correct way for a Philadelphia sports fan. I'll just say that. What's it like, being in purgatory as a Philadelphia sports fan right now?
Thanks for asking, buddy, because it's been on my mind. It's been on my mind. Let's go back to 2022, where you got the Philadelphia Eagles that lost the wild card, and then the 2022 Sixers losing in the Eastern Conference semifinals. Of course, that's expected.
That's where they go, yeah.
Yes, and then the 2022 Phillies losing the World Series. I mean, it was gravy they got there in the first place. Let's move to 2023, guys. Eagles losing the Super Bowl, 2023 Sixers losing in the Eastern Conference semifinals again. And then you have the Phillies in 2023 losing in the NLCS. So, wait, hold on. I'm not done. I'm not done, guys. I'm not done. 2024, the Eagles' epic collapse and the wild card loss against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah.
The Sixers' first round loss to the Knicks in 2024. And then the Phillies NLDS loss here in 2024. It's been purgatory. But then again, I look at teams like the Carolina Panthers and their fans, and they got nothing going on. You look at some of these NBA teams that just haven't done anything. Washington Wizards fans. What do they have? What do they have?
Nothing.
They have nothing, and I'm complaining about being in purgatory here, but I'm at least happy that our teams are able to get to that playoff and postseason spot. But I had to get that off my chest. So thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate it.
You have high expectations, right? As a Philadelphia sports fan.
There is.
The reason why there's frustration is because the Eagles were supposed to be Super Bowl contenders. The Phillies were supposed to be World Series contenders for years. And the Sixers, I don't know I think they were fringe finals contenders, right? And some people were like, they could threaten to win the East. So that's where the frustration comes from. And then last year, I'll segue into this. Like last year, they lose in 6 to the Knicks in the first round. Walk me through that. Like going into that series, what did you think was going to happen? What was the vibe like as a Sixers fan? And obviously it ends in disappointment, but what were your emotions throughout that whole series?
I thought they were going to lose to the Knicks.
You did? Okay.
If we go back, and we really try to think about that series, where the Sixers were coming in, being the 7th seed at that point, the regular season for them down the stretch was just rough. But I remember after that first Knicks-Sixers game, the Knicks were just winning the energy battle the entire time. Josh Hart, what do you have, 22 total rebounds throughout the series? The three Villanova guys.
He also found his stroke, by the way. He turned into a 3-point shooter out of nowhere.
It was incredible. It was seriously, it was amazing. The 3 Villanova guys just combining for huge, fast break 3-pointers constantly, and it kept the energy going.
Yeah.
And I think it's also important to when you go back to that series as a Sixers fan. I know we're doing the Sixers preview here, but with Joel Embiid again, the theme constantly year after year after year, his health, it certainly wasn't the best. And we just continue to see it. It's so frustrating. It really is, guys, when it comes to Embiid. He is such an amazing talent, an MVP caliber talent who just won the MVP in recent years, and rightfully so, a couple years ago. But it really was the energy last year that the Knicks had. And it was that energy, I think, that it's one of the main reasons why they were able to overcome the Sixers last year.
I don't think the matchup was a typical first-round matchup just because, again, Embiid getting injured, the team was like on a losing streak. Like that should have been a matchup that should have been like later on in the playoffs, because I think me and you, Josh, we talked about that was the best.
They
like
should have lost in the
series.
semis, like they rightfully should, like they always
Right.
do.
Yes,
I wasn't gonna say
like
it.
purgatory. It's my purgatory.
At least the team is not moving to Camden, at least. So I mean, that's a
plus. Yes, exactly.
Plus.
But it was the energy, guys. I mean, that's what the Knicks had last year. They're gonna have it this year too.
Yeah.
And I think they are gonna be the number one, I know we're gonna get into some predictions, but they're gonna be the number one or the number 2 seed.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You guys made the big move of adding Garçon Yabusele. No, I mean you guys added you guys added Paul George, which was like it was kind of hinted at during the playoffs when Joel Embiid gave him that look.
Yeah.
Initially you were probably excited about it, and then this injury that just happened in preseason, where you just like, okay, here we go again. Like, what are your feelings on the signing?
I'll be honest, we have been on our podcast platform, the Philadelphia Sports Table. We've been very schizophrenic about it. We really have. in terms of before the signing happened, we were sitting back saying to ourselves, okay, it's Paul George. He's older now at this point. He's on his umpteenth team. You know, what's it really going to do for the Philadelphia 76ers in the end? And then he gets signed, and then we're like, okay, there is a reality here I think that we're all kind of missing, and it specifically deals with how he and Tyrese Maxey are going to perform together on the court. And I think that's such an important aspect of this. And I think a lot of folks in Philly's, not Philly, sorry, Sixers Nation, I think they were kind of missing it in a way, not really understanding how things are going to come together and what it's going to do for Tyrese Maxey's game as well. And I know we're going to get to Maxey in a bit as we're moving along with the conversation, but I'm excited about the fact that it's not James Harden. I'm excited about the fact that it's not Ben Simmons. And yes, those are names from the past, but I also like the fact that this organization continually wants to try to go out there and win. They look at the free agent market. They look at who could potentially be a good fit for these guys. One who is continuing to develop year after year in Tyrese Maxey, and one who, again, was just an MVP in recent years. And this signing, it's like they had to do it. It's kind of one of those situations where from a free agent standpoint, they had to do it. And I do think we are going to see improved play on the court in different facets with having Paul George out there. So at the end of the day, I said, we were schizophrenic about it. I am at the end of the day very excited to have Paul George here, but I'm worried about his injury. I mean, we're already seeing it in the preseason. He's got a knee injury right now, and it's a concern. It's a concern. There's always health issues with this Sixers team. It's just baked into the Philadelphia 76ers.
Yeah, you answered all my Paul George questions in one fellow swoop.
Oh, did I really? I'm so sorry.
I'm
so sorry.
You're making my job easier.
All right.
Let's move on to Andre Drummond, because he's going to have a big role here. I mean, it's already known that Embiid's not going to play back-to-backs. I mean, he came out and pretty much said that. So Andre Drummond's going to be a huge part of this team, at least in the regular season. Playoffs, maybe not, depending on Embiid's health. Do you think he has the ability to still fill in for Embiid at a very admirable level? I think you guys had him a couple of years ago, and he did well for you, right?
He did well. And on our podcast platform, we have been talking about this being that one signing that we absolutely love this season. Really. And I was actually really happy to hear the news that came out this past week about the fact that Andre Drummond is going to shoulder more of a burden for this 76ers team, as they are not going to be playing Joel Embiid on back-to-back games during this season. And I absolutely, even with Paul George too, from what they said, from what Daryl Morey has said, that Paul George, he probably is not going to be playing a lot of back-to-back games as well. And I think it's responsible. I think the organization's being responsible. The fact that both of these guys are willing to do that, at least publicly willing to do that. They haven't said or been upset about it publicly. I mean, in total, the 76ers are going to play 26 of 82 games in the span of having those back-to-back games.
Yeah.
So Joel Embiid's looking to miss at least 13 games during this 2024-2025 season, leaving a void in the starting lineup for about 16% of the season. With that, Andre Drummond, I think, is going to be able to come in. I think he's going to be able to make a difference and be the guy that this team needs him to be. I don't production clearly I don't think is going to be an issue if Drummond starts in a lot of these games. 2023-2024, he averaged 17.7 points, 18.9 rebounds, 7.1 offensive boards, 1.9 steals, and 1.3 blocks per 36 minutes.
Wow.
I'm very happy with that stats.
Yeah,
And if they translate over, good things are going to happen. And I think Joel Embiid can stay healthy. But then again, you never know. One small little thing. We know Joel likes to flop every now and again, and if he flops
now and again, he always likes to flop.
I know. Honestly, it must be so enraging to watch him if you're another fan base. Oh my gosh.
You know me, man. I've been on your podcast. I've always showed your team love, and I've always been like, I like to sell you. I hate you guys now. Like I cannot stand. Outside of Tyrese Maxey, I cannot stand the 76ers.
Yes.
I went to both games 1 and 2, and at the games, like it was just watching it in person was like it was infuriating. It was absolutely infuriating. And I get it, like Jalen Brunson flops here and there, and he has like that cheap foul call that he gets every once in a while. But Embiid would like literally like throw his body into people, like leave his feet.
Been doing it for years.
Yeah,
Yes.
It's wild, man. It's wild. I love you, Jeff. I hate your team right now.
Oh, I know. Like, there are no 76ers fans out there that should be complaining about other players in the NBA who flop. Nobody should.
I'm clipping this out and sending it to all of my Sixer fan friends. Rob and I have a lot because we went to college right like down the street from Philadelphia.
Yeah.
So we
nice.
A lot of Philly fans.
A lot of Philly fans. I was going to say, speaking about Drummond, I said this last year when we did the preview. I said that the biggest loss you guys had, one of the biggest losses you guys had in the Ben Simmons trade was losing Drummond because he just gave you the option of like keeping Joel's minutes down.
Yes.
Now, do you think the whole thing about him not playing back-to-backs are a little bit overblown? Like you just said, it's going to be about 13 games that he misses.
Probably,
and also, to boot, he's playing for Nick Nurse, who did this with Kawhi. Everybody seems to forget, like, that was like their thing. That was like, hey, you're not playing back-to-backs, and it worked out in their favor. Do you think it's kind of being overblown, especially if you have a reliable center in place for the duration?
I think when you look at the history of what Andre Drummond has been in this league and where he is at in his career, I think all Drummond has done, since that trade is actually getting better in a backup role. And I think there's something to be said for that. I mean, to date here, we've only seen Drummond in the starting role during the preseason, and there's been some mixed results there, but his ability to just, clean the glass is a godsend for us as well. And he has served as a credible rolling target for Tyrese Maxey in the pick and roll, both of which are enough to, I think justify his paycheck for the year. So I think we are going to see that productivity that we've been longing for. So I'm very happy about it. Like we've said on our podcast show, it was at first one of the most underrated signings. And now I think as the season is getting ready to start, we know how important Andre Drummond is going to be to this team. And it's going to be that viable backup center that we're going to need. And that Joel Embiid is going to need as well.
Now, before we get into the new players that you signed, I do want to shout out Kelly Oubre. I think he fits your team very well. How do you feel as a Sixers fan? Same role coming back. Does he take a step back because you do add new pieces? So where does Oubre fit into all this?
From a defensive standpoint, like I am so excited to see where that defensive aspect of his game is going to go. He's going to have opportunities, I think, to scale up his role and potentially even run offense throughout the year. The key is going to be finding the sweet spot of that aggression that I think he does have at times, and that I'll say this, though. That's been his downfall at multiple stops in the past as well. I mean, last year, he was staring down the barrel of just flaming out of the league last season, right?
Yeah.
But with a minimum deal offering the remainder of how little margin for error he had, are we going to have the same urgency now? Now that he has some security here? Kind of hard to say. Let's see if some of those bad habits resurface. But I think from a defensive standpoint too, like he really could be a difference maker. And I'm excited to see him back there on the court. I really am.
Nice. Like Josh mentioned, you added a bunch of new players, so it's a completely different roster.
Yeah, I know.
Hey, let's see. You added Caleb Martin, Eric Gordon, Reggie Jackson, and Gershon Yabusele. I'm sorry if I'm messing up your name, brother.
Yabusele. Yeah. I messed it up too. I mess it up too on the show. Yeah.
What of all those players, who are you most excited about? How do you think they fit moving forward in the season?
I think if I had to pin down one guy who I'm looking forward to seeing, especially out of the gate, it's going to be Caleb Martin. And the question I have is, can he shoot more like his playoff numbers than his regular season numbers? Because Caleb Martin has been almost an exactly average NBA shooter for his career, 35.7% on middling volume for a role player. Meanwhile, he's basically been like Ray Allen in the playoffs, and I'm not exactly sure how
beat by himself in Game 7.
Yes, exactly. So, look, the guy doesn't lack confidence at all, which I really like. So I'm curious to see what he can do with a very steady diet of, swing past threes out of Embiid doubles and Maxey and Paul George ball screens. But I'm also prepared for this 76ers fan base to say that he may be overrated at some point during this season. I think he's going to have a good maybe third of the season, could run cold here or there, but I'm looking forward to seeing if he's able to shoot more like his playoff numbers than his regular season numbers.
What about Eric Gordon, Reggie Jackson, and the rest of the additions?
I'm honestly not too excited. I'm really not too excited about the guys. Yeah. They'll play certain roles. And again, it's really just going to come down to health. It's going to come down to who needs rests. And I don't think there's going to be that much, how can I say, really movement in terms of what they're going to give this team.
Yeah.
Eric Gordon, I don't know. What does he really?
Floor.
Yeah. And what does he really have left defensively? I don't know. If Gordon can simply guard a position, you'll take that and say, that his shooting is enough to make him a valuable role player. Looked good on defense against Brooklyn in the preseason game, but that's not always a given.
Okay. It's Brooklyn. It doesn't count.
I love you, Kwab.
Yeah, we stink. What about the rookies? You drafted Jared McCain and Adam Bona. Like, do they have a chance to crack in the rotation? I know, again, Jared McCain ended up getting hurt in the preseason game, but Bona seems like a type who might get some spot minutes as a big, especially with the Embiid situation of not playing back-to-back games.
The one thing I've noticed with Adam Bona, I'm wondering so far, like just from what I've seen in the preseason, can he curtail his fouling? Because he jumps at about everything near the rim, which is going to create some really nice blocks, but it's also going to be a lot of free throws for the opponent. So, over time, he's going to need to learn the importance of really like staying down instead of like trying to block everything within 6 feet of him. So it's going to take some time for him to develop. I could see him getting some playing time here and there. Like, if something happens to both Embiid and Drummond, there's Adam Bona maybe having to step up. And in that case, I am scared to death. But with Jared McCain, though, is he going to take some of Lowry's minutes? I'm really not sure. I think there's room for him to potentially develop in the future, but I really don't think he's going to play much of a role on this team too much. If anything, maybe towards the end of the season, but I would say here in 2024, as we start the season, I don't think he's going to be a big factor.
All right, now before we move on to the actual season from the offseason moves, you guys let go of a Philadelphia fan favorite, one of the most popular 76ers of all time, Tobias Harris. How sad are you? I know it's got to be devastating, but how sad are you that Tobias
Hold
Harris
on.
is now no longer a 76er?
Hold on, let me get this tear. Let me get this tear drop. Am I sad that Tobias Harris is no longer on this team? Hold on.
Oh,
No, not at all.
Oh wow, I'm so surprised.
Shocked.
Look, I was one of the biggest Tobias Harris defenders for a very long time.
Yeah.
Kwab, you've been on the show. Josh, you've been on the show a number of times. I've talked about Tobias Harris and how much I have appreciated his play every now and again. But when you're only putting up 4 points during the course of a playoff game, as we have seen time and time again, it was time. It was time, and it was a mistake to extend him when they did. I appreciate the games where maybe he did put up 30 some odd points, and he was able to step up when Joel Embiid wasn't in the lineup. Few and far between, but it did happen. I'm not going to miss Tobias Harris at all here.
Okay. Here's the more important.
I just thought you would.
But here's the important Tobias Harris question: Who gets the tribute video? Tobias Harris or B-Ball Paul? Who gets the? Because of thank you, the thank you video on the
Tobias might be the first person to ever get booed during their tribute video.
He might actually. He might. I could see it happening, and he would know it would be happening. He would know even before going in. He wouldn't do it. I'd say probably B-Ball Paul. I'd say B-Ball Paul for sure. He's getting a tribute. We're gonna miss him.
Yeah, see?
He's a character.
Yes.
All right, let's move on to the actual season now. Well, actually, it's just still kind of off season because the 76ers, they signed Embiid to an extension.
Yeah.
And to me, that means you're not rebuilding, right? We're going for this for a few years now.
Yeah.
As a Sixers fan, are you comfortable with that extension though? Because of his health? Does that worry you that they're so committed to him for an extra 3 years?
Yes, it does. It does. But I have to say, I go back to what we just heard from the 76ers organization this past week, the back-to-back games, the fact that Andre Drummond is here. And if Andre Drummond is able to really pick up that mantle, behind Joel Embiid, I think it could be really good. Look, Embiid is exhibiting a clear vote of confidence in the organization that drafted him 10 years ago. I can't believe it's 10 years at this point, and there's risk. Sure, there is. Embiid turns 31, I think, this coming March. Falls down a lot, as we know. Can be fragile every now and again. But by and large, I think the deal is a win for both sides. I do. I think that he is a talent that doesn't come along every few years.
Yeah.
To keep him, and because of what he means to not just to the fan base, I think, but what he means to the team in general, where he's essentially part, I think, of the front office. They're making moves. And we know a lot of players in the NBA are like this. You get to a certain echelon in the NBA, you're starting to have some say in who comes to the team, who is going to fit with who, what may be run here and there on the court. And, this is somebody who wants to be remembered, I think, for what he accomplished instead of all that's been wasted.
Yeah.
But I think it's plenty fair to think that the latter is more an accurate representation of what his legacy has amounted to at this point, which is why they're gonna need to move far in the playoffs this year for that to, for us to all put on the brakes with regard to Joel Embiid. But I'm very happy about the signing. I really am. And maybe it's just because I'm so used to seeing him out there on the court, and maybe I'm so used to the purgatory at this point that we were talking about earlier. But I'm happy.
He's been there through all it. So I guess.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is there anything you would like to see him improve on the court? Besides him being healthy and besides him not jumping onto the hardwood when he gets touched? Is there anything offensive wise, defensive wise you'd like to see from him this upcoming season?
I mean, you just said it, Kwab. I mean, honestly, the flops, can we just stop? Yeah. I mean, if he's going to do them, just cut them back by 50% or something. Yeah. But I would also say in the playoffs as well. And yes, he shouldered a lot of the burden against the Knicks in the first round this past year. But I think, man, when he gets tired, when he gets worn out, you see it. The lack of rebounding during the playoffs has been pretty prevalent over the past 3 years, I think, at this point. That's what I want to see changed. I want to see a more energized Joel Embiid during the playoffs. If they're able to get there and if he's able to stay healthy, that's where I want him. Again, it goes back to the fact that he's an MVP caliber type of player in this league still.
Yeah.
It's tough to improve upon your play on the court when you have the skill set that he does have. I just want to see less flopping on the court. I really do. 50% less, I'd be happy with it. And I know Josh would too.
Yeah, I absolutely would. Also, you signed Tyrese Maxey to a 5-year extension.
Yeah.
He was phenomenal in round one. Like he at time, actually most of the time, I'll be honest with you, was the best player in the series. I mean, him and Jalen Embiid at times was too, but he was phenomenal. Do you think he's reached a level now where he's a perennial all-star? Like you're expecting that from him? Okay.
Yeah, I do. I think that everybody's role is going to have to change even a little bit on this Sixers team this year. You know, the fact that Paul George is going to be here. I mean, it's amazing. Paul George is going to be the lowest in the pecking order that he's ever been in his career.
You have him as the third option.
Yeah.
I was going to ask that question. Okay, yeah.
Look, Tyrese is going to have to continue to develop, I think, as both a passer in the half court and in transition for the Sixers offense to really be at its best. But look, Maxey averaged 6.2 assists per game last season in his first true season as the primary point guard. And a lot of those assists, they came on pocket passes to Embiid at the nail when operating in pick and roll. So those are obviously still going to be there. But I think the addition of Paul George to replace Tobias Harris, opens up more opportunities on the floor. But when it comes to Maxey, he's the glue guy. He's the glue guy for me. There's a reason that Joel Embiid dubbed Tyrese Maxey as the franchise. Embiid is far and away the best player on the team, but the organizational culture and continuity goes through both of these guys. And Maxey is one of the team leaders now, but he's also the emotional leader on this team. And I was really looking forward to talking about him with you guys because of that. You look at sports and teams and locker rooms throughout all sports, they fall apart all the time, right? It's a part of sports. And if it happens to teams who've won championships in the past too. And I feel like now, and I feel like he's capable of it, Maxey's job is going to keep that morale high through the ups and downs, through a very long season. Yes, I do think he is an all-star. He's done an invariable amount of good things in his short time in Philly, but now those expectations are greater now that the organization has really put their eggs in his basket. And given his very inviting personality and his relentless work ethic, I don't think anybody is better to assume this role. And it's why I'm excited to see where he's going to continue to develop. Still has a high ceiling, guys. And I think he's going to be better and a perennial all-star for sure.
Tyrese Maxey single-handedly saved the Sixers' future. Seriously, he single-handedly without Tyrese Maxey, the Sixers are rebuilding. Let's be honest.
Yes.
If you don't have the number 2 next to Embiid right now, you're left with just Embiid, and you're like, where do we go from here with the center who can't stay on the court? Embiid's phenomenal, but what are we doing here? We haven't got past the semifinals. I don't think it's hyperbole to say that Tyrese Maxey is the reason why the Philadelphia 76ers window is still open, is the reason why Paul George is still here, and the reason why people can still take him seriously as a contender.
It's amazing to look back on that 2020 draft. Coming out of Kentucky, he was the 21st overall pick, and it's amazing to see where he's come. I don't think many teams thought that Tyrese Maxey was going to be this level of developable. Really. I don't think anybody did.
In a weird way, his ceiling was like Emmanuel Quickly.
Absolutely. I can't wait to see where he's going to go this year.
What would you what are numbers wise? What are some projections you have of him this season? Do you want to, like you said, do you want his assist numbers to kind of rev up, or is it more so
I think they will
around the same where with the points?
I think they will. I mean, if I had it my way, he'd be averaging 30 points a game. I mean, I would like to see maybe the assists going up, maybe around 8 assists per game. I don't think. I mean, he's at 6.2 last season, 8 assists per game. I'm good with that. I think that's very doable. I think he has the ceiling to be able to do that. But Josh, like you said, there was so much on his shoulders last year, especially during the postseason and in the playoffs. He has the ability to do it, and I think he's going to have to do it from time to time on this team. And I think he's a guy that's able to step up to the plate for sure.
All right. I mentioned Kelly Oubre before. I think another X factor potentially is Kyle Lowry, and I say that out of hate because I cannot stand him. I don't know how he still impacts the game.
You're still mad about Miami
Bro,
beating the Knicks. Just say,
I'm
bro.
mad about
Like,
Miami being the Knicks, and I'm mad that Kyle Lowry's a point guard version of Joel Embiid who just can't stop flopping. Like watching that series like it radicalized me. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
What's Kyle's role? Is he the backup point guard here? Like is he the definitive backup point guard? Do you think he has the same role like that he had in the series against the Knicks?
I think there's a potential for that to play itself out. I think so. I think he still has value as a bench facilitator with some he's got some elite hoops IQ, I think, and some shooting ability.
Phenomenal basketball player, yeah.
But I mean he ended up playing a huge role for the Sixers last year with most of the same age-related concerns, starting and closing most games as Nick Nurse's, most trusted lieutenant out there on the court. I just can't see him impacting the game more than he did maybe last year. I mean, at his age, like I was saying, again, still got great basketball IQ, and his shooting ability is there. I just with age, I don't know how much we're going to see from him, and I'm not pinning my hopes on the fact that Kyle Lowry is going to be able to really contribute a lot to this team this year as 38. What is he? 38 years old, I think.
Yeah, he's
at this point.
Yeah,
he's really getting up there. So he's a useful guy to have around, I think, but I don't know. At his age, I don't know. I'm not gonna be making any bets on him at all.
Okay. I guess the doomsday scenario. What happens if the Sixers fall short again? Because doesn't look like this team is in a rebuild like how they gave out the contracts and everything.
Yeah.
What's gonna happen if they end up like losing in the first round, or knock on wood, they don't make the playoff because of injuries and stuff? Ooh. Yeah, it's everything's on the table.
Well, the Wells Fargo Center could be burnt to the ground. They are talking about the new arena right next to the Chinatown area of the of the city. So that maybe it'll be incentive for that arena to get done sooner rather than later. I kid, of course, but if they don't get to a certain echelon in the playoffs this year, simply based on the moves that Daryl Morey has made here, it's just. Again, I go back to what we were initially talking about, that purgatory in the world of Philly sports that we have seen, and with this Sixers team as well. I mean, how many second round exits have they had? I can't even count them on all my fingers here. And then last year in the first round. So it makes it very difficult for them to rebuild. They are in it to win it right now. It's a great question, Kwab. It's one that we're just holding out hope for. We're holding out hope for health as well. It is going to be impossible to completely rebuild with these extensions, but I do have hope as a fan, and trying to be objective with this team as well, that with the talent they have, and again, health-wise, that's what they need, that they're going to be able to advance further than they have in recent years. That's where I'm at right now.
All right, Jeff, let me get a season prediction. Do they make the playoffs? If they make the playoffs, do they get past the second round? Seed, where do they rank in the Eastern Conference? I want all that. Are they better than the Bucks? Are they better than the Knicks?
I hate doing hot takes, but I'm going to do hot takes here, okay? Going to do hot takes with the season prediction, okay? And I think, and maybe it's just the excitement with the regular season around the corner and starting, but I think they're going to win 52 games this year, 52 and 30.
Okay.
I think they're going to end if everybody's healthy, and even if Joel Embiid does get injured a little bit here and there, I think what we were talking about with Andre Drummond earlier is very important and a very important component to this team. I think they can be third in the Eastern Conference, and I think that they can play the New York Knicks in the Eastern Conference Finals, and I think they can get there.
Wow. Okay.
I think the burning desire of this team is going to be there throughout this season. I think that burning desire of, we are tired of the purgatory. We are tired of the ridicule. We are a very talented team, and we have somebody who's developing in Tyrese Maxey. We have a new piece in Paul George coming into the fold here, and we have an MVP in Joel Embiid. Let's keep the fire burning. Let's get to the playoffs and let's get to the Eastern Conference. I want to see that same level of energy the Knicks had last year during the first round with this Sixers team. Yeah.
Energy, man.
I want to see that. And if they do have it, they're going to get to the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah. All right. Jeff Warren, everybody. Give it up. Jeff,
guys, I love you. Seriously, love you. Do a great job.
Man. It's fantastic.
Yeah, love
I appreciate you too very much. Thank you so much.
I would say sorry that you're a Philadelphia sports fan in purgatory, but I cannot stand Philadelphia sports.
There you go. There you go. There you go.
It just is what it is, man. The Sixers were the one team that didn't bother me, and then we had to play each other in the playoffs.
Then the playoffs happened.
I know. My best friend and my college roommate is a Knicks fan. It's a thing. It's a thing. I get it. I totally get it. But I am looking forward to having both of you coming on the Philadelphia Sports Table podcast show at some point in the very near future. We'll get into some Knicks talk, some Nets talk, get into some Eastern Conference talk, and I'm looking forward to this season and following you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're definitely going to have you back on as well. You
awesome.
are Philadelphia 76ers correspondent for sure.
Sounds good, man. Sounds good. I appreciate you both.
Follow you, your podcast, all that good stuff.
Yeah, you can actually just go to PhiladelphiaSportsTable.com. We've got all of our shows on our website, but you can listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, all major podcast platforms. You can follow us on the Twitter/X at Philadelphia PST. You can follow me at Jeffrey_Warren. I'm also on Threads at Mr. Jeff Warren as well. So give a follow, check out the show. If you hate Philly sports, you're going to love our show.
It's a great show, man. I love your podcast. I love being on your podcast.
Great show.
Thank you.
Great show.
Yeah, so
appreciate you both.
Yeah, no doubt, man. If you want to follow Dime, you can on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Threads at the Dime NBA. I'm Josh Rodriguez at Josh_Rodriguez_. He's Kwab at Kwab AKS. We'll see you next time for another episode of The Dime.